Hey everyone, and welcome back. So this is just going to be another super quick and dirty video. Now if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I've installed these tool tubes on my Himalayan. Now these are really great for carrying all sorts of different things. Right now in this tube, for instance, I've got my tool roll as well as my tire spoons. In my previous video that I posted, I talked about how you can also store fuel canisters in these tubes. They're really great for carrying just about anything small that you want to take. So with that said, I've gotten a lot of questions in the comments in my videos on specifically how did I mount these to the Himalayan itself. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today. I'm just going to show you exactly how it is that I tied these down and what I used to mount them to the bike. So let's get to it. So when you buy a tool tube, there are dozens of different websites that you can order them from. For me, I went with thetooltube.com directly simply because they let you customize your order. So they have multiple different sizes of tubes, different configurations, and different types of mounting hardware. So for me, I ordered the standard size tool tube and I added on the universal mounting kit simply because I didn't know if the few brackets that came with the tube itself were going to work on the Himalayan. Turns out they don't, so I needed the universal kit. Now what comes in the universal kit is really just a few pieces of mounting hardware. The first thing you'll notice is there's a lot of zip ties ranging from sort of the standard size all the way up to this really high gauge zip tie that you see here. You also see that there's some zip ties that are just longer, and these are the really important ones that you'll need for mounting. In addition to the zip ties, you get these little mounting brackets here that are just bolt-on, as well as this little swivel mount here, which is just allows you to run zip ties through either side, and that way you can kind of mount at any angle on any bar on the bike. So this is a really important component. There's a few other small pieces like this that are zip tie mountable using some of the bolts, but you can see everything on this table was left over after I already mounted. So they give you a lot of redundancy and a lot of extra parts, which is why I really like this company. All together, the tube and the universal kit I think cost about 30 bucks. So not very expensive as well. So with that said, let's go back to the bike and I'll show you what I use to actually mount the tube. All right, so back at the bike, the three components that I used out of the universal kit to mount this tube are what you see here. I used a lot of zip ties, especially the high gauge ones. I used that swivel mount that I showed you, and then I used one of the little U clamps here. And I'm going to show you exactly how it is now that I've got it mounted. It's really quite simple. It looks complicated. It looks like there's a lot going on here, but I really only used 3 mounting points for each tube. So let's get down below and I'll show you exactly where I tied things in. All right, so as you can see, I've removed the pannier so that we can really get up underneath and I can show you not only how I mounted it, but what the mounting points actually are. So starting at this end, I mounted the tool tube using the standard hole that comes in the bottom of the tube itself. And what I used at this end was this small U clamp here. Now if you look up underneath, I mounted this particular end of the tube to this crossbar that crosses underneath and behind the rack mount. So nowhere on the tool tube do I mount it to the actual rack mount itself because I need to be able to put the pannier in here. So all the mounting points are behind this front bar. So again, this first mount, if you look here, you can see I've simply clamped it around this U in such a way that I'm able to get the bolt in at a slight angle and tighten it down. Now you got to be really careful not to tighten this too far because you can actually break or warp the plastic there, but this gives you a really solid mounting point on this end. Looking from underneath, you can see it wraps around that tube right there and mounts without any issue. The second mounting point is right here. So using that swivel mount, basically I strapped it to the tube itself right here using 2 zip ties, you can see, and then I swiveled the bottom part about 30 degrees so that I could mount it to this crossbar here using 2 small zip ties. Now of course I could have used one of the thick single zip ties here as well, but you can really see exactly how that is mounted right there. So all I'm doing is using that swivel joint on the main body of the tool tube to give it another mounting point. Finally, if you look here, there's a third zip tie, one of the high gauge ones, one of the long ones, like this guy right here. And all I'm doing is tying it around the tube itself and then looping it through the rear rack right here. And you can see it's on the other side is the same way. And that's all it is. Now it does wiggle a little, sure. There's a little bit of play in there, but it's totally fine. There's no way this thing is actually going anywhere. The other one wiggles a little bit too. Up here at the front end, you'll notice there is a mounting plate, so you could mount this to something. However, when the pannier's in here, the little clip of the pannier actually pins that in place. If you look over here, you can see it. You can actually see how this kind of holds that in place and gives it a platform to sit on. And I know it looks a little janky, but it works perfectly fine. So that's all it is. That's the setup. And I've never had any trouble with it. And everything has been solid and worked great. So that's it for me. I hope that was helpful. And I hope that you're able to now install these on your Himalayan as well. So take care, be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.